Sage here for Kalkine. Thanks for joining us for this trending topic, and please subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon to be notified of the latest videos. In today's trending topic, we're covering exactly what does the Federal Reserve do. A country's economy can be compared to a chariot driven by two different horses, and the government and the central bank being the two horses in question. While the government is involved in giving broader push to the economy, the central bank takes the responsibility of ensuring growth, maintaining inflation and main foreign exchange reserves. When it comes to the central bank, the growth versus inflation paradigm is one of the most difficult ones. While the economically right government's focus on the economy's growth, the central bank needs to make sure that the interest rates are under control. And now this leads to a dilemma and oftentimes a clash between the government and the central bank. Lowering interest rates makes credit cheaper, and once the credit is cheap, it flows towards the economy, revving up growth in the process. However, the cheaper credit puts more money into hands of people. Hence, it may lead to unnecessary inflation as people end up buying more than they can. And this makes decisions tricky for the central banks. And we have seen the same scenario playing out in the case. So, let us understand, what is a central bank? A central bank, in short, is a non-market-based or even anti-competitive institution. It is a financial institution that has control over the production and distribution of money and credit for a particular geography. And this control comes through the virtue of acts and laws prevailing in the country. Globally, central banks are mainly tasked with the monetary policy of the country and the regulation of member banks. On the operational basis, some of the central banks are nationalised. However, many central banks are not government agencies, and such central banks are often touted as being politically independent. Even though it is not a government agency, a central bank enjoys the privileges that are established and protected by law. So what is a Federal Reserve? The American central bank is known as the Federal Reserve, famously known as the Fed, and it is arguably the most powerful financial institution in the country. The Fed is made up of 12 regional Federal Reserve banks, with each Fed owning the responsibility of a particular geographic area in the country. And this network of the 12 Feds is the reason why at times it is known as the Federal Reserve System. And these 12 Feds are based in Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Richmond, Atlanta, Chicago, St. Louis, Minneapolis, Kansas City, Dallas, and San Francisco. And after the panic created by various economic crises of the 19th century, the US Congress moved to the establish and the Federal Reserve in 1913. The Fed is seen as an independent agency since its decisions do not need to have a ratification by the President or anyone else from the White House. And despite being fairly independent, the Fed is still subject to congressional oversights and is supposed to work within the government's economic and fiscal policy objectives. So what are the duties of the Fed? The Fed has almost similar responsibility as any other central bank. The agency's most important function is to conduct a national monetary policy by influencing monetary and credit conditions in the US through decisions on bank rates. Among the macros, it is also tasked to ensure maximum employment in the economy, stable prices and moderate term interest rates. Then comes its supervisory role, as every central bank is tasked with supervising and regulating the banking institutions with its geography. So the central bank is also tasked to ensure the safety of the banking and financial system and to protect consumers' rights in the sector. Hence, the Fed supervises all the banks in the United States. Along with supervising function, it is also tasked with maintaining the financial system stability and containing the systemic risk, which at times can become very tricky. It also operates as a sort of bank to the government at times. To maintain stability, the central bank or any other central bank is also tasked with issuance of the government securities in a bid to maintain right money flow into the market. Thanks so much for joining us on this report. If you like the information, please like, share and comment on the video below and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Press the bell icon to be notified of the latest videos, and for regular information and more updates, please head to the website kalkinemedia.com. And this is Sage for Kalkinemedia.